Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap, and this is not your ordinary gaming laptop. This is something a little bit different. So we were first introduced to this new form of ROG laptop early last year in 2021 with the X13, and then later in the year we had the Z13, which was a detachable 2-in-1. But now, here we are with the bigger and also significantly more powerful X16. Basically, a lot of people wanted an AMD version of the very popular M16 and also a bigger version of the X13, and so the X16 was born. I'm actually really lucky to have this. There are only a handful of these pre-production models actually out in the wild right now, so a big thank you to ASUS for sending this over and also offering to sponsor this video. But basically, I just get to talk about it and show you around, but I don't get to play with it. Because it's a pre-production, non-retail model, I can't run any games, I can't run any tests or benchmarks, unfortunately, but I can show you around, we can talk about the specs, who should actually buy this, and if you're not super duper, interested in this, then maybe I can interest you in this. We'll come back to this one. And this is designed to give you all you need in a portable form factor, but then when you're at home or even at the office, you can then plug it into the optional XG mobile dock, basically a fancy eGPU for a big boost in horsepower. So there is a lot going on here, but for starters, it weighs 2 kilograms. It is 19.4 millimeters thick, so pretty portable. You could definitely carry this around with you, even in a backpack. Now, I asked ASUS when they sort of ran me through this and gave me a bit of a briefing, why did you put a 360 hinge on it? And their answer basically was just to give you as much flexibility as you want. It is certainly helpful to be able to push the screen back further if you're using it on your lap or on a laptop stand where often the angles are a bit awkward. I can't say I ever particularly want to use it in tent or stand mode. Let me know if you are one of the 5 people out there who do use your laptop like this, but you do have the option, and of course it is also therefore a touchscreen, and it supports the ASUS Pen 2. So if you want to use this for a bit of drawing and put the power of this into your work and your designing and your drawing, then you can. The truth is though, you never actually need to use the hinge if you don't want to, but if you give it a little wobble, you're going to get that. Not the end of the world though. So aside from the design, there are really 2 areas that make this properly stand out. And the first one is the screen itself. You have 2 panel options, either an IPS or a mini LED. Now they are both Quad HD, 165Hz, 16:10 touchscreens with Gorilla Glass to keep them a little bit more protected, and they're also Pantone calibrated. But this one is the mini LED. This thing will peak, according to ASUS, at 1100 nits. Whether you actually get that, if it doesn't just drop down immediately, we'll have to see. As I say, I can't test this just yet. You can just see how it illuminates my face. This thing is eye-searingly bright. Now, as you guys know, the main downside of mini LED normally is that we still do have dimming zones. It's not like OLED where each pixel can turn itself on and off, but even with these high contrast sort of test demos, it's pretty good. There is minimal blooming. However, what really makes this stand out for me is what's on the inside, the specs of this thing. The Flow X16 comes with up to a Ryzen 9 and also up to an RTX 3070 Ti. And that's the one I have here. I've got the top spec one, but I wouldn't recommend it. Even though I can't test it yet or run any performance benchmarks, I wouldn't get this with a 3070 Ti because you're kind of missing the point. For a lot of people, the whole reason you might buy a X13 or an X16 is because of this little port here, if I can get the rubber off. This guy. This is where you dock the XG Mobile. Now sadly I don't have the new one here, which packs in up to a Radeon RX 6850M XT graphics card. That is a full 330 watt GPU. And so because we also have that AMD CPU, we're then full AMD, and so we should get some of the advantages like smart access memory. Well, we should do in theory, but again that's something I'll have to test when I get my proper review sample. You can see here the port has a Thunderbolt 4 USB-C, which you can actually use by itself if you want to. Plus we get the proprietary connection giving it 8 PCIe lanes. Now the elephant in the room is the price. This by itself is not going to be cheap. I don't have the final pricing just yet, and I will update the description when I know for sure. But then if you also want to buy the XG mobile dock, then that's going to cost you an extra chunk as well. Now my question then was, well, how long are they going to support it? Because currently all XG mobile docks are backwards and forwards compatible. So if you have one of the current Z or X13s, then you can use this new dock on the old laptops and vice versa. Interestingly though, this actually supports PCIe 4, but the new XG mobile dock doesn't. So we're gonna have to wait till next year to get that little extra boost in performance. ASUS won't say, they won't promise how long they will support them. Also, it comes down to whether the GPU manufacturers actually allow them to put it in it and sign off on that. But I'm pretty confident we get 2 or 3 generations of docks, so you could buy this now and maybe the X GPU, or get it next year or the year after, and you can keep upgrading the GPU, which is not something you can do in any other laptop. However, if you don't fancy the dock, then this is still a very capable laptop by itself. And as I say, you can get it with up to a 3070 Ti. Now, to keep things cool, we have a new Frost Force cooling system and also a redesigned heatsink that redirects airflow to the GPU. Also, underneath here, we have a third fan. We've got one here, and one here, which not only keeps the keyboard nice and cool, but actually it means that they can reduce the speed of the other fans, so overall it is 7 decibels quieter than if they hadn't added a third fan. So that is the ROG Flow X16. Not for everyone, but certainly a very cool bit of kit. However, if you are a super duper hardcore gamer, or even in a professional esports gamer, then you may want something like this instead. This is the ROG Strix Scar 17 SE, which I'm gonna just go ahead and assume means sexy edition. It's like the regular Strix Scar 17, but even faster, and it is quite possibly the most powerful gaming laptop you can buy. 17-inch display at either 360Hz at 1080p or 240Hz at Quad HD. Inside, we get up to a 12th Gen i9 12950HX. That is the brand new super high-end 16-core 24-thread chip with an additional boost overclock from 5 up to 5.2 GHz. Pair that with up to an RTX 3080 Ti, which again is boosted from the 150-watt TGP in the regular Scar to 175 watts. This is where ASUS have been a bit clever, because actually both the components can draw up to 175 watts each, which is the absolute maximum power draw that both Intel and Nvidia allow. You cannot get more power out of these components, but then with dynamic boost, it can shift around based on what you're doing, either automatically or you can do it manually. So when you're gaming, what you might end up with is a 65 watt CPU and the full 175 watt GPU. And naturally, you can go nuts with up to 64 gigs of DDR5 RAM and 2 terabytes of PCIe 4 storage, both of which you can also upgrade yourself. Now, of course, with all that power comes, well, great responsibility, but also great heat. Inside, we have an all-new, much bigger vapor chamber cooling system, and also they've added what they call their Conductonaut liquid metal to both the GPU and the CPU. Previously, it's always just been the CPU, which apparently can reduce the temperatures on the GPU now by up to 15 degrees lower compared to just using regular, boring old rubbish thermal paste. They've also added a few little design touches to make this stand out. You can still replace the little armor caps on the back, and you've got this nice little translucent area of the keyboard. Nice big touchpad, some pretty thin bezels around 3 of the sides, although we've still got this fairly chunky chin at the bottom. And as you can see, no webcam, but this is not really meant as an all-rounder everyday laptop. This is a hardcore gaming laptop. But what do you reckon? If you could take one of these home with you right now, would you go with the ROG Flow X16 or this new Scar 17 SE? I'm not sure, it's a tough one. I think for me, just because I love the idea of the portability and also then the performance, which you can upgrade over time as new docks come out. But certainly if you want, the 360Hz refresh and proper desktop replacement kind of specs, then yeah, this is gonna be the one you want. Make sure you have hit that subscribe button, as my full reviews will be coming soon, where I will test these properly and see just how fast they are. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.